Hello, everyone. Today, I'll be presenting my thesis titled Application of Digital Transformation on the Logistic Industry in Indonesia During the Pandemic. And now, we will be moving to the contents of the presentation. We have seven topics to talk about. The first one will be the introduction. Second one will be the literature review. The third one will be the problem statement. The fourth one will be the methods. The fifth one will be the results and discussions. The sixth will be the conclusion. And seventh, but last one, but not least, the seventh is the references. Now we'll be discussing about the introduction. So the worldwide pandemic is well known to have an effect in the world and have caused a lot of effects in so many ways. Whether business sectors, in all industries, or even individual people, they have all been part of COVID-19 pandemic that started in 2019. The outcomes of the effect of COVID-19 pandemic would include business shutdowns and supply chain challenges that would cause a domino effect on many businesses, especially the business belonging in the industries that rely on each other. One specific industry that may have been majorly disturbed by the pandemic would be the logistics industry. The logistic industry has a huge influence on the world's economy as they are responsible for the flows of goods between businesses locally and even internationally. The global logistic industry has been estimated around $8 trillion to 12 trillion in size annually. And now we'll be talking about the literature review. The first literature review that been used as a reference to this research is the digital transformation using the AI technology. Well, um, in this research, we talk about digital transformation that has been a common initiative around business world to undergo in order to grow and adapt to situations such as the pandemic. Well, one of the technologies that uses digital transformation is the AI technology while focusing on the manufacture and supply networks. The supply chain process gained precedence over the opportunity of having deep disruptions. AI-enabled technologies can increase connectivity, visibility, and transparency across the digital supply networks. Furthermore, it also increases the reactivity and resilience of the complicated global digital supply networks. There are many ways to apply AI technology on these manufacturing and supply networks. Now, the second one would be the research that has a title of Acceleration of Digital Transformation on Organizations During the Pandemic. The COVID-19 pandemic has shut down many businesses all around the world. The current crisis has impacted the world in a scale that the world has not experienced since the Great Recession. Although digital transformation involves creating a new business model or making changes in the existing business model, this does not mean business have not give up their existing business model. Digitally improved business model usually complement traditional models. Another reason why the pandemic boosts digital transformation is because the restrictions created by the pandemic, like social distancing and lockdowns. And now we'll be moving to the problem statement. The logistic industry can suffer from inefficiencies at times. Digital transformation can reduce these inefficiencies and also lead to social and environmental benefits. The pandemic has prevented companies in that industry to run their normal procedure that they have been used to, resulting in a need for adaptation to the changing situation. Therefore, the idea of digital transformation might be the ideal solution to improve their performance in facing certain situations like the pandemic. Digital transformation has assisted businesses in numerous approaches, as businesses in all the industries are struggling and surviving. During the pandemic, digital transformation has allowed businesses to break barriers of these restrictions caused by the pandemic. In addition to that, it allows businesses to become more efficient in management, which can result in better performance, which also means higher profits. This application can also be executed towards the logistic industry. One of the common errors is identifying digitalization as a goal itself. However, as digital transformation has numerous advantages when applied, the only problem with this idea is the challenge in the implementation, especially in the logistic industry. As important as it can get for companies to apply this strategy, it is actually pretty difficult for digital transformation to be applied in the business models of these companies. Companies in the logistic industry will have to stay competitive while applying this strategy and also adapt to these changes while minimizing the risk that the strategy can create. Now we'll be moving to the methods. Now, the materials used are actually various websites and previous researches that is related to the topic. And those both will be used to support this research. At the same time, the sample collected from the survey created will also be used as a primary research to prove why digital transformation may be the optimal solution to this problem. The question created would be related to digital transformation, asking the respondents if some factors would be important when it comes to career services and which factors are important to them. Now we move to samples. For the samples, I have decided to use quantitative as the primary research method in which surveys will be conducted in order to gather primary information about the factors the logistic industry has to consider in order to implement digital transformation. The main targets of the surveys are most likely people who have used the career service in Indonesia, which can be part of the logistic industry. The survey will ask about the behavior of customers towards courier services before and during the pandemic to analyze the difference in behavior between the two periods. In addition to that, the respondents will also be asked about the challenges and the requirements of digital transformation and which factors are more important in their opinion. In addition to that, the collection of secondary information from the internet is also implemented to support the primary resources. This information is likely data from research that has already been performed in the past that is related to digital transformation. Now, moving on to procedure. First, the creation of the survey starting for the target category to the questions which focus on the importance of factors of career services and how digital transformation can improve those factors. Then the surveys are shared to the respondents. The survey will last around 2 weeks for respondents to answer the survey. The data is then collected and analyzed using descriptive analysis. For the measurement, the importance of the factors is then measured depending on the majority of the respondents. The more respondents will choose a factor, the more important the factor is. Now, moving to data analysis. This research is to focus the importance of digital transformation in the logistic industry in Indonesia during the pandemic, as the implementation of digital transformation might be the solution to surviving under the condition given by the pandemic. Even though the topic of digital transformation in relation to the pandemic has been a topic that is used in other research, the difference in this research is that I want to focus the implementation of digital transformation on a specific industry, which is the logistic industry, rather than the general industry. The logistic industry is an important industry since it is part of most of the global supply chain in the world. And with this research, it might show the right solution for the logistic company to survive in the pandemic. By analyzing the factors of digital transformation, we can see the possibilities of applying it in the logistic industry. The main focus of the research is to prove that digital transformation is the suitable solution for the logistic industry during the pandemic. And now we'll be moving on to the results and discussions. As you can see from this picture, after gathering data with quantitative methods through the use of survey, I have found that 75% of the respondents have used this courier service more during the pandemic rather than before, and 25% have more or less the same amount as they have used courier services before the pandemic. And now from these pictures also, the reason these respondents have varied, and as we can see from the graph, most of the respondents were to avoid exposure to the risk of COVID-19, which is 81.3%. Other factors would be, as it saves more time for the respondents, 68.8%, and more benchmarking options, 34.4%. One of the respondents responded that it is not available in the area. And now respondents also experienced some differences when using courier services during the pandemic. Most of the respondents experienced slow delivery time, which is 59% of them, 59.4%, which proves the pandemic has caused supply chain disruptions, hence slowing the process of the flow of goods from one place to another. Respondents also experienced a more complicated process, 43.8%, and delays, 37.5%, which is probably due to the pandemic since new regulations are introduced, which makes everything more strict. And now this picture shows the factor of the time taken between the product being sent to the product, the time between the product being sent to the product reaching to the destination. As we can see that most of our respondents think that this factor is very important, as most of the respondents think strongly agree with this question, and 50% of them agree strongly. And for the process factor of simplicity in the process of sending an item, especially if there are new regulations imposed, we could see that most of the people actually just agree, which is 53.1%, And we could see that actually 3.1% actually disagreed and think that this factor is not important. And now we could see also that most of the people actually strongly agree, which is 40.6%, that the factor that delays that is likely to happen due to the pandemic as it causes supply chain disruptions. And we could also see that actually 9.4% also disagreed that this factor is not that important. And for the factor of availability of geographical options, most of the people agreed that this is a very important factor, which is 40.6%. And we could see that some uh, disagreed that this factor is important, but only 6.3% um, decided to say that this is not important. And now we also asked the respondents how much digital transformation would impact and how important it can actually be for career firms. Well, most of the respondents agreed, and 62.5% chose strongly agreed that digital transformation can actually impact the career firms. And now for digital the ideas of applying digital transformation into the in this career firms in the logistic industry, there are many technologies that can be applied into the career firm, and most of the respondents think that IoT technology for security, like package tracking, is the most important one, in which the respondents are 75%. So we could see that this technology would be the most important. And now, of course, when implementing digital transformation, there are also factors that needs to be considered. And most respondents think that cost and resources available is the most important, which is 90.6% of the respondents. And now, of course, there are also challenges when implementing digital transformation. And from this graph, we could also see that most of the respondents think that preparation of resources and capital to shift in digital transformation is the biggest challenge that firms would be facing, in which respondents who chose this factor is 71.9%. And now, of course, as factors and challenges are identified and asked how important these factors are through survey, I would propose a recommendation of applying digital transformation the efficient way. It should start with the organization first, since the ones working with it will be the organization itself. The preparation should be placed on the organization first, whether it is the workforce, the goals, and the mindset. When the preparations of the organization is complete, the business should decide if their business model should be updated or replaced. When that is done, then the firm can focus on the resources and capital for implementing this strategy. Now we'll continue the results and discussion from what we deduced from the survey. Well, applying digital transformation should be in a very efficient way. And of course, before when applying digital transformation, the preparation should be placed on the organization first. And also the business model should also be considered, whether the business model should either be replaced or updated. And last but not least is the resources. Firms should also prepare the resources when implementing this strategy, so they might have a successful implementation. And now, last but not least is the conclusion. Logistic firms will have to prepare their organization first and the goal of the organization so that it can know when they will apply digital transformation um, that will suit their objective and business model. The challenges include the workforce preparations, whether to redefine their organization goals so they can work towards digital transformation, whether they need to update their business models or create a new one, preparation of resources to implement digital transformation, and if the business needs to update its business process. There are some limitations in this research, as this topic can have many different perspectives, which can be seen from previous research, as not everyone agrees with the idea of digital transformation. And now these are the references for my research. And that will be all. Thank you so much for your attention. Have a nice day.